So I got an email from Ori Spado out of America. Old school. There's not many of that crowd left on the earth. And he said, "You got to interview Joe here." And if you're not familiar with Joe, I just watched his interview with Steve Rafe, who we've also done a lot of stuff with. Very prominent family out of London, highly respected. Lots of stories about the craze, but also now, and in the description box below this video, we've got all of Joe's links. He's got this book out, Unlicensed, Who's the Governor? So his family, very prominent in the unlicensed boxing world. And we've had Jamie Boyle on here, and he's told us stories about Roy Shaw and some of the other characters in this. There you go. Roy, Pretty Boy Shaw. And people who are interested in these huge names should go down in the description box and check this book out. So thanks for coming on, Joe. Do you want to tell us what your history is with Ori?
Me and I, yeah, we go back a long way. We started off, it was in the music industry. Started off in the music industry, me and my father, when we was managing Mark Morrison, a couple of these guys. And so, like, Mark had to go out to Los Angeles. When he's gone out to Los Angeles, Mark's, how can I put it? He can get himself into trouble. I mean, so when he went out to Los Angeles to do his album, which Warner's put up a lot of money for, now what we wanted was someone to keep an eye on him. Now, I'm not flying all the way out there and everything else. So we got in touch. We started working with Ori, and he come well recommended by some people we knew in New York and stuff like that. And it went from there, really. We struck up a relationship. And then we looked after Mark, and then we started doing other bits of business with each other. And it's gone from we're still like, me and Ori like that now, very close,
So when he got out of prison, did you go visit him?
Yes, when he got out, he was. I jumped on a plane and went to see him, and I ended up spending. I was staying on his couch. He come out, and I said, I'm going to come out and stay in the Beverly Hills Hotel, and he went, "No, Joe, you got to come and stay with me." So I thought, all right, yeah, that's fine. I ended up sleeping on the couch. He put a duvet on there with some pillows, and it was a lovely apartment though, right?
Yeah.
Beverly Hills. It was nice, you know what I mean. So we had a good time, and I was going out there for about 1 week, and I ended up staying out there over 5 weeks, I think it was.
Yeah.
I ended up staying out there. I loved LA. I was going to move out there. So
I was as well before the SWAT team came.
So,
all right, so more than half of our viewers are out of the States. Do you want to explain your family name? I mean, people in the UK are familiar, but your family name and what your dad did.
yeah, well, it's, what we did was, we do what we have to do to get by, really.
Yeah.
But over the years, we've made a lot of connections. If you're talking about my father was involved with a payola years ago in America. I think it was Joe Isgrove, I think it was. There was a lot of guys, he was actually indicted on an FBI thing, my father was, but obviously my dad was in England and it didn't go forward. So there's always been that connection there. And then with the American mob, the guys, when they come over to London in the 60s doing the casinos, and a lot of people then they come over and in America, like the guys I've dealt with, like the guy I used to work with through Ori, it was a guy called Danny Sims, who was Bob Marley's manager. And when Danny come to work in the UK, he's been working in New York under Joe Piney, who was involved with Gotti and all them guys.
Yeah.
So he had to pay off. In New York, it's all about payoff. If you want to earn money, you've got to be paying someone some money. So when he's come to London, he's thought to himself, he's waiting for the arm. He's waiting for someone to, but they've got that wavelength where they're so ingrained into them, they actually want that security, they want that blanket.
Yeah.
Even though they might not need it in the UK, but they just got that mindset where, oh, where's the top guy? I want to pay him some money that way if I've got a problem here or a problem there. So we started working on that side of it with my father, and that branched out to Suge Knight. working with Death Row and you know and stuff like that. But with the American connection, you know, it goes on a lot of years. A lot of years it does.
So that brought to mind you see in these craze films where the Americans reach out and try and establish a relationship with the craze. Do you want to tell us how realistic that was?
Well, first of all, I boycotted the film Legend. I actually phoned John Pearson up and actually said to him, and I had a go at him. You know, I said, look, I don't care about a man's sexuality. You know what I mean? Keep it to yourself, though. But there was stuff that was put in that film. That scene where Ronnie Craig's gone, I like Italian boys. Right? There is no way in a million years, I'm telling you now, Ronnie Craig would say that. Why did they put that in the bloody? You know what I mean, why did they put that in? I don't know why. And then there was other story. Pearson done a story. It was about Reggie and Ronnie was sleeping with each other. And I'm like, well, was you there? Did you see it? Right now, you know, let's think about it rationally. Now, John Pearson interviewed the twins when they was doing Professional Violence. The twins were suspicious of everyone. You know, they was old school villains, right? Suspicious of everyone. Now, all of a sudden, this reporter comes in and starts interviewing them. Now, is Ronnie going to go to a reporter? I want to tell you something in confidence. I used to shag my brother up the arse. Do you know what I mean, Shaun? It's fantasy. It didn't happen, right? You know. So I phoned him up and I said, ain't you had enough fucking meat off the bones? You probably, I don't know what you just got paid out, a Legend film, but I should imagine it's in six figures. Right? Ain't you had enough headlines and enough money that you got to, they're both dead, that you got to make up crap like that, you know? So, you know, but then going back to the other bit, the mob bit, with the mob, the Mafia, and when they come over to London years ago, it was funny. It was like my dad and the Nash family, Johnny Nash,
Yeah.
and the Olympic Club, and you know, a couple of other places, and then all of a sudden one day through Battles Rossi, because of the Italian connection, Ronnie Craig's got a meeting with my dad and Johnny Nash, and I got a good earner, Joe. I got a blinding earner. Do you know what I mean? We can earn some money.
Yeah.
And then they started saying about the Mafia thing. When my dad and John already had it sorted, right? And the funny story is, it was like the mob. My dad and John actually, the mob were paying my dad and John the money, not Ronnie or Reggie Craig. And my dad and Johnny was giving them money to keep them out the bloody club because they were losers. You know, you got to remember the thing with Reggie and Ronnie. Everywhere they went 20, 25-handed. Everywhere. They'd never go anywhere you know, by their own. They always had an entourage of complete and utter. Some of them were decent, nice fellas, but they always had an entourage of fucking. You know, you'd look at them and just think, you know, and they dragged that everywhere they went. And that was the truth with the mob scene. You know, that was what it was. They was actually paid money to go and drink up the road. Do you know what I mean? Don't come and drink in here and bring all these idiots down here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, that was it, really. It wasn't a protection thing because that was already been taken care of.
Was it in the Steve Rafe interview where you described introducing your schoolmates to the craze?
Yeah. That was a funny. That was funny, right? You know, I grew up. The craze to me wasn't what the craze are to everyone else, really. Do you know what I mean? It was like, you know, obviously I knew they was well known, but you know, I grew up in my dad, Roy Shaw, Johnny Nash, and you know, Mad Ronnie Fryer, and you know, all these guys around the house all the time. Peter Tillys, Peter Marshalls, and Freddie. You know, so the twins were. You know, to me, I started going to visit them with my dad, and then I started going to visit them on my own because it was a hospital. You can visit every day, so sometimes I'd be there in the morning and the bloody afternoon, and I used to just say to my mates who are like 16, 17, do you want to come visit Ronnie Craig? And they would go like, yeah, they'd tell their fathers, and they'd go, oh, you're going to see Ronnie Craig. You know, and I used to take them up, and you know, you know, I must have visited Ronnie 200 times, 300 times.
Were there any other notorious people in those visits?
Yeah, you had Sutcliffe was in there.
Yorkshire Ripper.
Yeah. You know, I'll be honest with you. I had a couple of times I had to pull myself back. You know, but it was the first time I see him, I cut the visit short. I just said to Ronnie, I said, I can't see anyone. You know, I said, you know, and funny enough, he had a bird with him, and the bird's touching his head. Right, and the bird's touching his head, and they're kissing, and I'm sitting like that, me and Ronnie over a table, and I'm like, and it's in my eyesight. Do you know what I mean? It's there, and I'm like, and Ronnie's talking to me, and I keep seeing this, and I'm like, Ron, I've got to go, mate. He went, well, what's the matter? Like, and if I'd have done something, I'd get Ronnie into trouble. So, like, in my head, I thought just cut the visit short.
Yeah.
And then next time I went to see him, you know, he didn't have a lot of visits, Sutcliffe. Do you know what I mean? And like I'm saying, I visited Ronnie for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And I bumped into him twice. And, you know, and I could pretty much say I was up visiting him at least once a week for 3 or 4 years, Shaun. You know what I mean? So
you touched on something there. There's this code that's changed, unfortunately. People I associate with in America, old school Italian mafia code, don't harm women, don't harm kids.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, you've got the drug gangs have escalated. Albanians will show up, take your eyeballs out, petrol bomb your mum's house. The cartels kill your whole family, video it, put it on YouTube. What do you think about the change in the code?
Well, it's, you know, when you look at things, if you have a row with a man, you know, I remember I had a row with some fellas years ago, and they said to me, they said, Joe, you broke the rules. I said, you broke the rules. They said, you went to the man's front door. And I said, you know, you're taking a piss or what? I said, the fucking, you know what I mean, when you're having a row, do you know what I mean? I said, that's for you telling me that. I've actually paid you money to go to someone's fucking front door, you know what I mean? So, but you know, it has gone to another level now, because, look, if you look at the English villains, you know, if you look at fellas who are in gangs at the moment, you know, they got a wife, they got kids, a lot of them got mortgages. They got something to lose. You know, you got a gang of Albanians. You know, I'm not saying Albanians as the fucking. I'm just saying them as a fucking as an example. And they're over here. They ain't got no wife. They ain't got no kids. They ain't got. You know, they can make a phone call and get a fellow who's living in the fucking hills in fucking some village and say to him, "Come over here tomorrow. All you got to do is go and carve that fellow up, and I'll give you a couple of £100." There's 200 quid of that, and not only because of the families as well. You know, in them little villages and them places like where the Italians were. You know, if they're told to do something, it's like a big honour for them. You know, I'm going to London to help the people. You know, you can't compete with that. Do you know what I mean? You can't compete with like. Let me say it. Look, I'll back down. No, man. I don't look for rows or nothing like that, right? But you know, but when you get to our age now and you start thinking yourself going into that game again, you're looking at going to prison. When you're that well known, you know what I mean. The end result is you're going to end up getting nicked and doing 20 life behind the door. Them guys ain't thinking that. They couldn't care less. You know, so you can't. It's hard, Shaun, to compete with that. It's the same with with the Mexicans. You know. And over there, that country's so corrupt, it's unbelievable. You know,
Have you watched any episodes of Queen of the South?
I think I watched the cut. Someone asked me, what's the cut?
Oh, it's really good. It shows the corruption. Good? Yeah, the governor's running the coke and everything, and using the military to wipe out the competition.
I'll tell you a funny thing. Before this lockdown, I just got a phone call where someone sent me a thing over, and it was from Carlos Escobar, his brother. He's just come out of prison. And they're talking about doing a documentary on his paintings.
Oh, wow.
So someone sent it to me. You know? And then they went, Joe, can you put, because they know I'm in the film game, you know, with people. So I went, what they want? So I went, well, they're going to fly you out to Medellin, and you've got to go and stay at the Escobar house. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, are you for sure? Or what? You know what I mean? They wanted me to go out and stay at bloody Escobar's house. I was thinking there'd be half of Scotland Yard sitting there waiting for me the time I get off the bloody plane. But then COVID hit, and so, you know what I mean? I don't know much more about it.
On the subject of Escobar then, Juan Pablo, the son, says he gets messages every day from young people. They've watched too many episodes of Narcos, and they think, oh, Pablo's so cool, how can I be like your dad? And he says to them, no, you do not want to be like my dad. What do you say to these young people who've got gangsteritis?
Well, it's a tough life. Do you know what I mean? Funny, I was talking to someone the other day, and we was laughing, and it looks glamorous and everything else, but believe me, we've been to a lot more funerals than what we had bloody weddings, I tell you that now, and that's what I say. You got to have broad shoulders, because there's no fun, I've seen people go to pieces. Tough people go to pieces, it's hard, you have a row with another little firm and it turns serious. And they're going to come through your front door. When they get hold of you, they're putting one in your head. Are you telling me you're going to go indoors that night and sit down and have order a kebab and watch Coronation Street? No, you ain't. do you know what I mean? You can't talk to your missus, you can't talk to your kids, you can't do any work because it's on your mind 24 hours a day. You can't sleep at night, you're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then you're running about like a fucking idiot the next day, risking, tooling yourself up, risking getting...
Sorry, someone's phone is ringing. You all right to turn it off? Yeah. Thank you. Got it.
And then you're running about. You might not, you're running about 3 or 4-handed in a car, and you might be tooled up to the eyeballs, and all of a sudden you think yourself, the old Bill might just pull you over, and you're going to get, like I said, you're going to get lumped off for what? It's not a good. It's finished now. It's gone. Do you know what I mean? If you want to be a criminal now, be a politician.
They're the biggest ones in the world.
Yeah, or go into the stock market.
Yeah.
Accountancy, or say,
Yeah.
Do something. But the old game is gone. There's a lot of money in drugs still, but it's controlled by the, it's controlled by the foreigners.
So growing up, then your dad was in prison quite a bit.
Mm.
How did that affect you?
It was tough. But it started from such an early age. It was expected.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was, some of the earliest memories I can have is visiting my dad in prison. And so, my house was always a little bit different. I'm not saying it disrespectful to my mates or anyone else, but I used to go round my mates' houses and their dads would be sitting there and they'd be like, they look like fuddy-duddies. They look like, do you know what I mean? And you go round my house and there was these big, powerful Roy Shaws and men and joking about and drinking and having a laugh. And, when my dad was out, I used to go down the pub and they used to come back and 11, 12 o'clock at night, bang, the card table would come out. 10 of them, on a Friday night, all playing cards, all having a drink, and and he used to go, Joe boy, shut out. I'd be in bed, come down, shape up. And I'd stand there shaping up like that, and everyone would give me a £5 or a couple of quid. Do you know what I mean? £1 notes in them days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
£1 notes. And, and I used to wait for him on a Friday night. I used to go, God, I'll earn myself a tenner, I'll go down, you know what I mean? So it was always different, Shaun. It was always, the prison thing was hard. It was hard. When I got older, I realised how hard it was on my mum.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? It was more hard on my mum than what it was me, to tell the truth. As I got a little bit older, when the old man went to Nick, I was like, God, I've got the licence to do whatever I fucking want to do. You know what I mean? So, I was like the man of the house then, you know what I mean? So.
And this was back when your mum could take your dad a Sunday roast into the prison?
Yeah.
Actually allowed that back then?
Amazing.
Wow.
I remember when my dad got pulled in at Brixton, it was over a fraud thing it was over. And they arrested, I think it was about 50 of his mates. And so there was like 45 of them or something, all remanded in Brixton. So all the women on a Sunday or whatever will be queued up. Everyone knew each other. I'll go in to visit them. I go, God, there's my granddad, there's my Uncle Ted, there's my Uncle Dan. Do you know what I mean? There's Terry, there's Peter. Do you know what I mean? Everyone knew each other.
Yeah.
And you used to be able to take my mum used to go there, and all the wives are queuing up with like these Sunday lunches with silver foil over it to walk in,
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. But that was Brixton.
Brixton.
Yeah, Brixton prison, that was.
How come you had to go on the run at age 1?
Funny story. It was, I wasn't on the run, but I'd just been born and the Crays had just been arrested. And, Johnny and my dad was doing a lot of work with them. They was all working with the clubs and everything up the West End. So So, like, it's an old thing what people usually do. Someone close to you gets nicked, and you might not actually be involved in what they got nicked for, but you've been doing work with them. So you think to yourself, well, have it on my toes for a little bit to see what happens.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people was getting pulled in at the time when the twins got nicked. And the old man and Johnny went, well, I'll tell you what, look, we don't want to get pulled in with this fucking murder, because Jack the Hat was one of my dad's best mates. Mervitti, come out of Amman, come out of South London.
Yeah.
And he was one of my dad's early members, like one of the fellas on my dad's firm. And there was a lot of rows between my dad and Ronnie and all them over what happened as well. So, but so they turned around and went, like, we'll go. So they booked a villa out in Italy. And I'm 1 year of age, and we're hiding out in Italy until the trial. And when the trial, and they knew they weren't going to get pulled in, that was it. We'll come back home.
So, did your side not think that Jack the Hat had it coming?
It's a difficult question. He was hard work, and we've all had them mates who are hard work. Whether he had that coming to him was maybe a bit excessive. And in later years, Tony said to me as well, Lambiano and a couple of other people said, yeah, he didn't deserve that, Joe. A good hiding, a good clump. But a good hiding, a good clump, Jack might come back. So that's what I was worried about. Because Jack was that fella, what's his name, Moody, who played in the first Craze film, good actor. But they made him out to be an old man. Jack weren't. Jack was a big, powerful guy. And believe me, he could have a row. And the twins would have been in trouble if he'd have come at them. So, like, maybe it was a little bit of cowardice on their part, where, like, if we give them a good hiding, we've got to watch our backs, let's just do it. And then maybe Ronnie was, and Reggie and everything else, what happened in that room. There's other things I heard in that room as well, what went on, where maybe Jack didn't give him a chance. He made one. He actually made one with him, and it escalated where it went. But he died like a slag, what they done to him. He died like a slag. I told Tony Lobrano that as well. I said, how he was set up and took to that, was wrong. And Tony went, I agree with you, Joe. He didn't deserve Jack. Jack was a solid man. He done a lot of bird. He actually got a birch. He was one of the old people who actually got a birch. I think he's Wandsworth prison. And, but if you was in the nick and you had a row with someone with the screws, he would be with you. He wouldn't make out he ain't seen you. He would go, right, I'm with you, Joe. So he was solid in that way, do you know what I mean, Shaun?
So with the craze then, the thought process, were they becoming increasingly out of control to do things like this?
From what I've heard, they was, it's difficult really, because, like, they're not here.
Yeah.
They're not here. So, but, it was something I actually put in the book. It was something, and I said, my dad and Johnny Nash and Roy Shaw, they should go down to Great Morris and see Reggie and Ronnie and stuff now and again when they're doing bits of work. When them three walked in the pub, everyone in the pub knew who the Pyle was. You got to remember about the Cray twins. You got to remember there was a magnetism about them. Twins. Do you know what I mean? If you walked into a pub today, me and you went for a drink down the road, and there's two identical twins that could be dressed in leather jackets and jeans, right? You're drawn to them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's that magnetism about them. Mm-hmm. But now you've got two twins who dress like Al Capone, acts like Al Capone. They're sitting there smoking cigarettes, like, acting like and they were dangerous bastards. Don't get me wrong. The twins from the stories I know. If they had a row, you had a problem. You did have a problem.
Yeah.
So they had that charisma about them. Mm-hmm. But going back to what you're saying about was they getting out of control? Yeah, they was getting out of control. But would they have kept getting away with it? Yeah, they probably would have done it, to the truth. There's a few stories about people say they was going to kill them and iron them out. I don't know about that. We all get the hump with people, and we can all say things. But but the twins were, especially Ronnie. He was like if me and you was out one night and we had a row, you'd get a phone call next morning, and Ronnie would be, I heard you had a row last night, Joe. I heard, everything all right? Can we help you? do you know what I'm saying? They were proper, you know, they were proper like loyal to their friends. So, you know, I don't know. You know, a lot of things can be said about people when they're dead. You know, about I was going to kill this one and kill that, but you know, who knows, Shaun?
There's rumours that they lasted so long because they were blackmailing politicians.
Mm.
Anything on that to say?
Well, it was.
Yeah.
Well, it was. You know, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, Ronnie had you know, Craig Leno's and a place like that. You know, Craig Leno, people used to get in there years ago and stuff like that. And you know, my dad used to tell me. He said sometimes we used to go in the West End and like you know, we'd be up there on the way to the Olympic Bar or the Astor or something like that, and we'd pop in to see Ronnie. He said he used to fucking take us to these weird bars, you know, but they weren't even bars, you know, like these places in these muse houses, what you know, like rich, but they turned into a gentleman's club and all that. He said we used to go up there and Ronnie would be sitting like that, you know, be sitting there and there'd be a fella in the corner like playing a violin. You know, he'd be sitting like that and you'd have all these, you know, all them politicians and all the judges and all them people, they go to them type of places.
Yeah.
And my dad and Johnny would be going like, God, what the fucking hell are we doing in here? Do you know what I mean? You know, so he did have that influence, whether it was because of his sexual orientation. He was probably opened a few doors for him that side of it, yeah. But, you know, there was a few people, what, Boothby and other people. There was a few people, you know, who was. But, you know, I don't really know. I never asked Ronnie about that question, Shaun.
So you were at all three big fights. We've got Roy Shaw versus Lenny McLean. What was it like meeting those giants?
Oh, you know, it was, they were larger than life. You know, it was the first fight. You know, I was only 8 years of age. The first fight. You know, but I can still remember Lenny, and you know, he had this big head. Do you know what I mean? It was like, you know, and I don't mean that. I love Lenny, but I don't mean that in a horrible way. But he had this big head, this big, and even when I was a kid, I was like, he half scared me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just you could feel the menace coming off of him.
Yeah.
Where Roy was a lot smaller, and Roy was more, you know, fiery. Do you know what I mean? Roy was very fiery.
Yeah.
And you know, more intense. You know, but Lenny had that size. You know, when he walked into a room, especially when he became 20 odd stone as well. When he became 20 odd stone, and he was you know, and I was, you know, obviously Roy was a good mate of my dad's, so I was, you know, when Roy got beat by Lenny in the second fight, you know, I was still a kid, but it was a shock. It was a shock, and then I was at the third fight where Lenny destroyed Roy. You know, there's no doubt about it. You know, it's in the book. When I write in the book, and people are always trying to make excuses for fights, and I say, look, you can always sit here and say this. I said, but the facts are, Roy won one fight and Lenny won 2 fights. No matter what the reasons or whatever else, because we can all pull them out of fucking hair. The facts are what can never be changed. It was 1 to Roy, 2 to Lenny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know. But they were 2 big, very, very powerful characters, Shaun, you know.
So your early work was collecting money for your dad. And you did some errands for the Craze. Could you want to give us some details about that kind of work?
Yeah, it was, you know, the old man was doing what he was doing, and I was just getting older. And so, like, you know, it started off like, you know, when I was a kid, we used to go around sometimes. I was always with the old man, and we used to go around collecting a couple of quid here and there. And then he used to trust me to go and pay people and drop money off here and there. And, you know, and it was, sometimes in them days, it was a lot of money. You know, you're talking about 300 and 400 grand. And, you know, it was funny. Like, you know, I remember once with your old man, he was sitting there, my dad and Brian, you know what I mean? We were sitting there and he's gone, Joe, come upstairs. Like that, and they got 300 grand on a bed. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, I've got to sit there with socks on and wipe every bloody note down. And I think they give me 20 quid, the cheeky bastards, you know what I mean? But I was there all day from about 9 o'clock in the morning to about 9 o'clock at night, you know. But, you know, it was, I knew what he was doing. I got older. I knew what he was doing. It didn't hurt anyone. Do you know what I mean? It was harmless enough. And so I ended up going in it. And then with the twins as well, with Ronnie. I visited Ronnie, and Ronnie used to ask me to do little bits and bobs for him. And Ronnie was the best asker in the world. He had a thing about him where he'd sit there and even the way he began, he went, Joe, I went, can I ask you for a favour, please, mate? The way he said, you go, yeah, of course. You don't go, what is it? Do you know what I mean? Oh, yeah, of course, Ron. You know what I mean? You go, right, listen, I've got $2,000 or $3,000 coming tomorrow. Can you take it? Can you drop it off somewhere for me? And I go, yeah, sweet. And also they go, right, put a list out. About 20 names on the list. You know what I mean? Take 500 of him, take another. Oh, for fuck's sake! I'm going to be busy for the next 3 days. You know what I mean? But he's in the nick. I was out, so I didn't mind it.
So we encourage people to get into sports and martial arts and boxing and to stay away from crime.
Mm-hmm.
Some young people, they hit a crossroads in their life and they got to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Were you at that crossroads? Because didn't you get into boxing yourself?
Yeah, I was always boxing, and my dad was a pro boxer, so I grew up boxing. And then I was fighting and amateur, and then also like we was getting up in the morning, when I was 16, 17, and we're going out to in them days we used to drive to Newbury and stuff like that and go and nick ornaments and, like Cap of the Monte ornaments, £500 ornaments, and we'd also I'd be saying to the fellas, right, it's 3:30, right, I've got to go back to the gym. And they go, oh, Joe, we're all the fucking way. We've got another 2 shops to do. And I was going, listen, I've got to be back in the gym. Yeah. I've got to be back, And then, we used to just get the money and go out drinking on the nights. And then we started drinking and everything else. And then one thing led to another. And 17, 18, bits and bobs for me, bits of trouble here and there. And before I know it, I'm too old. I just thought I ain't turning pro at 26, 27 years of age. And, Marvin Hagler said a fantastic statement years ago. He said, it's very hard getting out of bed at 5:30 in the morning and going for a run in silk pyjamas. And it's the truth. When you're hungry and you want to fight, but when you know you can go out and earn yourself $1,000 here and the next day, or 500 quid or whatever, it's tough. You've got to be dedicated. If you're not dedicated, don't do it.
Yeah.
Because you get hurt.
But the consequences are prison, like you said earlier. What was your first arrest?
Oh, first arrest. 14 years of age, I think I was. And I was in Putney High Street and I nicked a shirt and then I took it back without the receipt and said, I bought this shirt. Could I have the money back? And we done it once and then we went back an hour later, we done it again. And it was for deception of fraud. It was, and I got a caution. I think it was. That was the first. Then there was a lot of cobblers. Obstruction of footpath and bloody ABH and little crap. I had about 10 not guilties on the spin.
What was your first arrest that sent you to prison?
Oh, that was ABH. That was ABH. We were fighting.
How did the fight come about?
There was a couple of kids, and we just moved into an area, and one of the kids was it was funny. He was a couple of birds or something. We was talking, and I was like, I couldn't care less about them. And then I'm walking up the road, and the fella's walked up, and he's walked out. He went, "You son, you said this," and he's put a knife up to my throat. So so I turned around and no, it weren't me. I got a knife at my throat. You know what I mean? It's not the movies here where you go stab me. I mean, that weren't me, mate. So he's gone, God, fuck up. I went, all right. I walked round the corner. I run back to my house with a baseball bat. I've got a baseball bat, come back looking for him. And he's gone. He's on the bus. He's gone. So now I know he carries a knife. So I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't want to carry a knife. I don't want to have a 50-50 row with a knife. You know what I mean? If you're coming at me with a knife, I want to end the fight quick without getting stabbed. Do you know what I mean, Shaun, right? So I thought, I can't carry a baseball bat around me all fucking day and night, can I? So what am I going to do? So I ended up getting some brown salted ammonia and put it in a Vicks Sinex. And in them days, no one had heard about this, you know what I mean? In like Malden. And then I bumped into him and I've squirted him up and I've done him. And then that escalated and then a little bit. And then, you know, and then all of a sudden, I didn't actually get nicked for that. I got nicked for bashing one of his mates up. And then we got nicked and then I got put away for a little bit. And then came out. But, you know, that was funny. That was funny. But it was, because of my upbringing as well, I was a little bit different from the other kids. Do you know what I mean? It was like, you know, I mean, Nan always said to me, Joey, if you're going to do something different. And when you do have a row with someone, be wicked. Do you know what I mean? That's what she used to say to me. So I've done things different. Try to do things that will make a bit of an impression, you know what I mean? So, you know.
So how were you received in prison then? I imagine you knew a few people.
Yeah, we knew a few people. You know, I was looked after, I suppose, in a way, you could say. You know, the first time I was there, you know what I mean? People come in, you're all right for baccy, you're all right for chocolate, you're all right for Ritz crackers, you know what I mean? You know, give me what I wanted. It was all right. You know, so when a few years later, when I got nicked, it was funny that the old bill, it come on me for conspiracy.
Yeah, I had that one.
Yeah, you know, and we were sitting in the car and blast, they've come from everywhere. I actually had 9 cars following me, so 9 fucking cars, you know what I mean? And I'm pretty good at clocking a tower in the mirror, but 9 cars. And then we're sitting there and me crashed, dragged out of the motor, nicked. And I actually got pulled in, and they were saying about crimes from the Brinks Mat robbery, proceeds of the Brinks Mat robbery, drugs and all that, right? Do you know what they found in the fucking car? Mirrors, right? What you look at yourself in the fucking mirror, right? But because it was all in boxes, they thought it was all packed out with something else. So, but then all of a sudden there was some counterfeit notes in there, which was from my mates, and he was a financial. My dad was in prison at the time. He was a financial director, and they got their license in it. What's that financial license you got? If you're in the financial game, you have to have a financial license, don't you?
I don't know the name of it in this country.
But you have to, do you know what I mean? But if you get arrested, they'll take the license off you.
Okay.
So, but at the time, my dad was partners with me in this business, silent business, and my dad's in prison. So, so every Friday, he's coming round with 500 quid for me a month. You know, it's my dad's proceeds. Now he's nicked at me. That was his bit of bloody dough. It weren't my dough. Now, all of a sudden, he gets nicked for it. That money ends. So it's the first time in my life I put my hands up. I can hated it. You know, I've gone, they're mine. You know, and put my hands up and owned up to it. And then I got put away for that. They tried, and they said it was conspiracy to manufacture £5 million worth of counterfeit currency. Where they got that from, I do not know. It was Regional 9. Right? I said, well, where's that? Do you know what I mean? And then the next thing I know, and it was fun, it was at Kingston Crown Court, and there's like 9 or 8 or 9 bloody Scotland Yard bloody detectives there, and I'm nicked for 300, 400 quid's worth of counterfeit notes. Even the judge is going, what is going on here? Why is Scotland Yard all sitting here? Do you know what I mean? So I got banged up for that. And that was a funny story. With when I've gone, now a Cat D prisoner, remember? I'm going to go forward. I was going to go forward, and all of a sudden it's about 10 o'clock at night. Bang, the door's open, the cell's open. So what the fuck? So, I mean, they don't open your door at 10 o'clock at night. Do you know what I mean? Something is a death in the family or something. And then so they said, right, there's a phone call for you. I mean, what do you mean there's a fucking phone call? This is Brixton. I said, what do you mean there's a phone call for me? Am I being set up here? Got to be dragged out and get a clump or something, you know what I mean? You know, so I said, what, they've gone downstairs. It's my dad on the phone. Right, he's in Belmarsh, category A in the unit. And he's on protest with about 4 or 5 IRA men, right, Mad Dingus McGee and all these mob, and they've all refused to be banged up. They're all sitting there saying, right, unless Joe comes to Belmarsh, Right? We are not going back in our cells, Shaun, right? And I'm Cat D, I'm going to Ford, right? The others, Joe, right, we're not getting banged up. The governor's come down, they do what you got to do, they've got to bring you to Belmarsh. I'm like, yeah, thanks, Dad. Belmarsh only been open 2 years, and it was like the highest fucking maximum prison in the country, Shaun, you know what I mean? And even when I got the reception, the screw's gone like, oh, ladies, I walked in like, he went, what the fucking hell are you doing here? Do you know what I mean? You tell me, you know what I mean? I end up doing every day in Belmarsh.
Were you able to get a cell with your dad?
No, he was in the unit.
Yeah.
He was in the unit.
Yeah.
And it was funny, I was in house block 3, I think it was. And then I was in there a day, and then a couple of my dad's mates, couple of armed robbers and all that, they're shouting out the windows, Joe, you're coming over with us tomorrow. We got you a single Peter. And you know, there's a waiting list in there for cells, single cells. You know?
Yeah.
I've been in there a day, 2 days.
Wow.
And next thing, like, come over, march me round, you know what I mean? I've got this single cell. We was all on the floors. And,
Yeah.
And upstairs, there was a few of us. And there was Ronnie Field, there was a Ulster man there, what they call it, UDF, bloody man. He was up there with us, I should call him Ian Paisley. And there was another kid there, and he used to make me laugh. When I first met him, he had a swastika tattooed on his head called Bigsy. And when I first met him, I was like, oh, I can't have this fucking idiot wrapped
National Front guy.
Yeah, I said, I can't have him wrapped around me, do you know what I mean?
That's crazy, because when I was a teenager, my best friend Wildman ended up his cellmate with Bigsy, and he was telling me all these stories about Bigsy.
Honestly,
I've never
Bigsy.
heard that name since.
Yeah.
He's told me those stories.
Oh, blood. He used to get letters from the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He was in the cell next to me in Belmarsh.
Yeah.
But he weren't a bad fella. Take away all that bollocks, you know what I mean? And like, so there's one thing he done one day, and it was, and he got a letter from someone from another Nick, and it said, a guy's, got a parcel, got the money off everyone for the parcel, and then fucked himself off out the Nick, so gone to Belmarsh with all everyone's fucking dough and everything else, you know what I mean? And he's arrived in Belmarsh, so he's got the letter now. I'm telling you now, a lot of cons would go, oh, I never see that letter. Do you know what I mean? I never see it, but Bigsy went to me, one day, he went, watch me back, Joe. Keep an eye on me like that. He went in the showers and he done the kid up, you know what I mean, who was the liberty taker. And that to me, I thought, no, you got morals, son. Do you know what I mean? There's a bit of fibre to you, you know. What he done, I didn't agree with his swastikas on his head and all that stuff, but his heart was in the right place, you know what I mean, for that, Shaun, you know.
Sure,
that's funny. Then we do the film.
I was a teenager, and he's telling me all these stories about Bigsy and blah blah blah. And I've never heard that name since. That was 30 years ago.
Well, 91. I'm going back to when I was in prison.
Yeah,
1991. Yeah,
yeah. That was the year I left for America, and my best friend went to prison. Yeah. So Belmarsh then. Did you bump into like Vic Dark or anyone like that? Stephen Gillen? We had a few guys who've said they've been in these prisons.
I didn't know. A lot of them guys were Cat A boys, weren't they?
Yeah.
And in Belmarsh, you had a prison within a prison.
Yeah.
And so on a Saturday morning, I should get up and they should take me to visit my dad. And there was I bumped into Vic and a few of them, Stephen Sayers and Stevie and all them when he was in Whitemore.
Yeah, we had Sayers on as well. Yeah.
When he was in Whitemore, I see a few of them guys. And, but in Belmarsh, no, Belmarsh was very, very, it was absolutely, I actually got strip search going to see my dad, visiting him through glass. I was like, do you know what I mean? I'm in the prison next door.
Yeah.
And I'm getting strip searched. It was very regimental, and it was very bloody thorough. It was crazy.
How long did you serve on that one?
That one, 9 months.
9 months. And did anyone challenge you? Any prisoners or guards?
No, not really. In that time, there was a funny, story. Like because of who I was, people started. It's a funny thing, prison. What I say to people, do you know what I mean? You can get into a row in prison very, very easy, and it's usually from not you. It's from other people, and it's like you start getting little cliques. And then someone in your clique will get in a row with someone else, and because he's in your clique, you feel like you got to defend him, or people are looking at you to go and give the guy a tug. Do you know what I mean, Shaun? So
yeah,
And there was one thing where there was a fella, like a big black fella he was, and we're standing there, and he's having a go at a couple of people, and I was just mind me. I just want. No, I'm in there for a hot bath. I'm doing 9 I'm coming home. I just want to get home.
Yeah.
And my release date was right near Christmas and all. So I didn't want to get in. No, if I had to get in trouble, I would. But I just wanted to get out and enjoy Christmas with my kid and that.
Yeah.
And so, like, I kept a little bit, and then one day, this is coming. So, I've ended up going down to the hot plate with him. And all of a sudden, I was standing there, and the guy's jumped the queue right in front of one of our mates. You know what I mean? He's jumped the queue like that, and everyone's looking at me like as if to say, "Well, you're going to say something, Joe?" And I'm like, oi. I said, he's a fucking queuehead, don't you? You know what I mean? Mm. So, he like kissed his teeth, you know what I mean? Walked back, flare up like that. Well, mate, you got a problem, you got a problem. I mean, yeah, I got a problem. I got a fucking problem with you. And I poked him right in the stomach. You know what I mean? Really hard in the chest. I go, problem with you. And I've gone at him. Right, bang, he's gone back. He's gone back right now. He's like, well, crazy man. I mean, crazy man. I would get the back of the fucking queue. You know, and he's going, you're crazy man. I went, yeah, go on, back off, get away from me. You know, it's about the closest, really. To what I mean, with it.
So you get out in the early 90s, and your dad's out as well, and you decide to get a professional boxing promoter's license.
Mm.
So you're planning on just trying to make a legit career?
Yeah, I suppose so. It was just, it was funny enough, I was talking about me boxing. I was in a pub in the Red Lion, and my dad, Uncle Ted, and a few of us were talking about me boxing. And I said, I think I was about 30 or something, I mean, 29, 30, and I was saying, I said, I regret it every day, Dad, but I should have carried on. People used to say, you'd have been a British champion at least, Joe, and then it just a flippant conversation, just a flippant comment. He just said, he said, why don't you be a promoter? I went, what the fuck do I know about promoting? You know what I mean? He went, be a promoter, and that was it. And then, he obviously knew everyone in the boxing game. I phoned Harry Holland up the next day and told him. He gave me the name for the British Boxing Board of Control. And that was it, really. I phoned him up, got the interview. They crucified me on the first interview. I never had a clue what questions they were asking me. Give me a little book, went away for a week, come back, and pass with flying colours the next time. They turn around, like usually they actually, like when you're having an interview, it's funny the way they've done it. They're all like ex-barristers and ex-lawyers, and they'd put you around this room at 10 chairs, and you'd be sitting in a chair, and it seemed like your chair was down there. Do you know what I mean? And their chairs are up there, and you're like this little fella, and they're asking you these questions.
Yeah.
And then what they usually do is they go like, once they've interviewed you, they go, okay, can you go back upstairs now and we'll decide, we'll have a decision and we'll call you back down. Well, after my second interview, they didn't even do that. They just went straight away, look, we can't fault you on what you've answered. You've got your licence, you know what I mean? And I couldn't believe it. And I was the youngest. I don't know whether Frank Warren might have beat me by a few months, but I'm not sure because I can't get the exact date out of Frank when he actually got his licence. But there wasn't much in between me and Frank, who was the youngest ever
promoter in history.
Yeah, for the UK. There's younger promoters now, but at that time,
So, what was the Security Union Feds, and why did you start it?
Well, I was always involved in the security bits and bobs, pensions in clubs and stuff like that in the West End. Me and Dave Courtney used to not run doors, but we used to look after a few places. And then one day we was going, we organised a trip to go and watch Lennox Lewis versus Mike Tyson. And one of the guys who asked for a ticket was a solicitor called Richard Mallet, and he had one office up in Kings Lynn. Well, me and him ended up sitting on a plane all the way to Detroit together, Memphis rather. So during that trip, we come up with a plan to create a union. And, to create a union, you have to have your code of conduct, you have to have your books, it's your rule books. It's not easily done. It's very hard to be done. And when we come back, we had the idea, we put it in motion. Got hold of a few good people. Stevie Wraith was on it as well at the beginning. Christian Simpson, a few other doormen, and we used to have monthly meetings. And all of a sudden, we're the only union in the country for security. TUC started recognising us. And, you know, but it was funny, people were going, Joe, you know, every single president of a union ends up getting knighted. You know? And I'm like, oh, but they got to knight me. Can you imagine that? Yeah. You know, but it was fun at the time, you know.
You did your speech in the House of Commons, but you were voted off the board.
Yeah, it's one thing with me. You know, a lot of people always say about, you know, having in the family name. You got your ups and you got your downs with it. You know, and one of the things is when you enter a world like that, it is a hindrance. It's not a bonus. You know, and you got security companies. You know, say like a guy's got 500 people working for him. I just say to him, look, I want to invite you onto the board. I think I'll sign all your men up. You know, we do a deal, we work a deal out or whatever, do you know what I mean? We work out a commission, pays you offices for a fucking year. You know, something like that. But also they're like, oh, do we want to be involved with Pyle? Do we want to be involved with gangsters? Do we want to, you know, is this protection rackets? What about if we turn around and go, we've had to think about it now, we don't want to, we want to stop paying. Can they stop paying? That's what all goes through their head. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it works that way. So when we're on the board, all of a sudden they're all sitting there, they're talking about it. They're going, you know, I think Joe being the president is holding us back. And I said, well, I created the bloody union. Do you know what I mean? It's in my bones. You know what I mean? I said, you know, without me, do you know what I mean? I'm passionate about it. I said, you know, it's a bit like the Jimmy Hoffa thing. You know what I mean? It was like, you know, I was the one kicking people up the arse. And then I threw the table up in the air, funny enough, in a meeting. I said, I've had a fucking, I threw the table up in the air. I said, I'm walking out. Then I said, I'll tell you something now. I said, I'll give this union 2 months without me at fault. I said, with all you wankers, all sitting there, I said, you're all going to do it? You know, within 1 month, it was gone. I mean, you know. And it could have been something, you know, when we went to the House of Commons and we got inter parties, we got Labour Party, we got Liberal Party, we got Conservative parties. They're all looking at me thinking, this guy can bring 150,000 voters into us. So they're all courting me. Do you know what I mean? They're all like, you know, they're all courting me. All want to be in favour with us. So we're holding them off. And we're going, well, you know, in my head, well, what can you offer us? What are you going to give us? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then, you know, we had to go and meet a couple of, you know, in the bars there and stuff like that. Lord Stevens and a few other people we had meetings with. And you know, it was like to give a little speech in front of a few people. And, you know, they're sitting there scratching their asses and picking their nose. You know what I mean? You know, it was, but it was a shame. It could have been something special. Yeah. You know, to be a union as well. And obviously with you know, the funding, the loans. Do you know what I mean? You know, there's the money, you know, you're talking about taking in 500,000, 10, 12 pounds every month. So there's a lot of cash, there's a lot of money. You know, all that type of money pulls in and then you invest it into other things and, you know, and it could have been something, you know, but I'll give it my best shot and I don't regret it. I'm happy, I'm proud I've done it, but, you know, it's life, isn't it, you know?
So, South Africa, you end up in prison in Angola for diamond smuggling. How'd that come about?
It was at a time, it was a funny time. It was back in the early 90s. And it was just before I got banged up, funny enough it was. It was a little while before I got put away, what story I just told you before. And I was involved in long firms in them days. It was long firms. And one of the contacts we had was a lady. I'm not going to say her name, but she was a lady, and her grandfather got blown up by the IRA, got murdered. But she was living in South Africa, and she loved the Rogue. She loved the film, you know what I mean? So she's phoned me up and she's gone, Joe, I've got this warehouse in Johannesburg, and can you come out and run it? And we're doing LF. You know? So I'm like, oh, I don't know. You know, and now I'm sitting there and I was saying, in the end, I've ended up doing it. I've jumped on a plane. I've gone out there. When I walked out there, the warehouse is as big as fucking Wembley Stadium. And the only thing in the warehouse is 3 boxes with some shoes right at the far end. So I said, right, where's the bank account? She went, oh, we haven't got a bank account yet. I said, are you taking the piss? I said, I've flown all the way over here to do that. I said, who's in the chair? So she went, you. I said, what you want me to start a bank account in bloody South Africa? Do you know what I mean? I said, we're weeks away from getting a stamp on credit. So in the end, that ended up going. And then through her connections, I ended up meeting a couple of, because there's all ex-national service boys in South Africa. I was in Pretoria, met a couple of boys, and then ended up, the guy he was working with was a Jewish guy. He was a Jewish guy, and they were sapphire, emerald smugglers involved in the Stones. A lot of money, big house in Joburg. I ended up hanging about with them. And then the first day I was there, I was with him like that, and all of a sudden, as we pulled up to the house, there's all these bullet holes in the house. And I'm like that. So all of a sudden, he said, oh, no, we'd been having arguments and all that with someone, and he's got his young son there. And he gets a phone call. He says, Joe, we have to go out. Do you know how to use a shotgun? I mean, yeah. Give me a pump shotgun. He went, we're going, look after my son. I went, what the fuck am I doing? You know what I mean? I'm there, there's machine gun holes in the wall. But so we end up being mates, end up going on. And then we started his connections with fellas in the ANC. And, some of them make Tony Montana look like a fucking amateur, to tell the truth. They had houses with guys with fucking AK-47s and everything, And rough cut stones. And the guys I'm with, they're all ex-army and all that. And it was stealing Jeeps, 4-wheel drive. Because you go around Angola, there's no currency in Angola. It was war-torn. There's nothing there, Shaun. You could have thousands and thousands of pounds, but you can't. There's no McDonald's. There's no Mercedes dealerships down the road. There's nothing you can spend your fucking money on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
So, they'd go to us like, bring us up to Mercedes Jeeps, bring us still some or whatever, do you know what I mean? Range Rovers or whatever. So we'd nick a few cars, drive them up there, go over the border. Picked up on the other side of the border near a place called Oshikanga. And then we'd drive, they'd take us through, and then all of a sudden we'd meet the people and they'd give us a bag. They'd like bloody glass, you know what I mean? They'd give us bags, we'd take them back to Joburg, give them to the Jewish guys, and they'd give us a few quid. It was a long trip. Take us a week to be there and back. But it was good. It was good money. But then it turned sour. Do you know what I mean? We got pinched and we got nicked. We was in town, and there was some mercenary guys. I knew they were mercenary guys. I knew they was running guns. And then they said to us, you can come in with us. Like, because when you had to go through the border, you had to pay someone off. And usually, I'm not naming names, but there was people who we had to pay off. But this time we didn't go through them. We was just going to try it ourselves. And they said we could follow them. When we've gone through, we've gone through the border, and they said, pull over here. And we pulled over into a little alleyway, and we're sitting there. And it was funny, imagine, there's fucking, everywhere's bombed to pieces, everywhere's shot to pieces, and there's like us in like 3 bloody brand new Jeeps in a little alleyway, white kids, do you know what I mean? Next thing we know, brush, it's just gone on us, wallop. Pulled in, jumped out, nicked, you know what I mean? I was smashed. I was hit straight away, dragged out the car and unconscious about. It was tough, it was hard what they done to me. It was bad out there. And 9 weeks. It was about 9-10 weeks I was banged up out there. And that was our bit of bird. You know what I mean, Shaun? That was our bit of bird, mate.
Were you the minority in the prison?
I was the only white fella in there. It weren't even a prison.
Yeah.
It was a military base, and they had a cage outside, and they used to put 8x4 plywood on the top of it for the roof to keep the sun out of it. Well, the fucking sun moves round all day long. Do you know what I mean? There was like 20 of us in this in this thing. The toilet in the corner, it was an oil drum where you had to piss and shit. The flies were fucking everywhere. It was, you know, it was horrendous. Do you know what I mean? And it's a funny thing what I always say to people. I always say to people, like, when you're in a situation like that, and they were asking me questions, they thought I was a mercenary because I had short hair. And like in them days, everyone had a fucking Michael Bolton, fucking what they call them haircuts, do you know what I mean? Like, I've got a short hair and I've got no passport. And they listen to me, they're going, you're a mercenary. Who are you working with? Mate, I'm a Cockney. I'm over here with just earning a few quid from London. And they wouldn't believe me. And then, you know, and then if they don't break you within 48 hours, but they couldn't break me because I had nothing to tell. No matter what they'd done to me, do you know what I'm saying? There was nothing I could tell apart from the truth. Unless I made up, said I am a fucking mercenary. But after 48 hours, you kick in, you're like, I've had enough. Just do what you got to do. Do you know what I mean? Just do what you got to do. If you're going to kill me, kill me. Do you know what I mean? You go beyond caring. And I got on, I was on that vibe with it, you know, and you know, I tried to cut me bloody wrists on the bloody, when I was in, they put me in a corrugated steel bloody confinement, and I tried to cut me wrists on the thing. I said, oh, fuck this, I've had enough, do you know what I mean? I balls that up now, you know, it was a tough bit, of thing, and I just didn't know I didn't know if it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I didn't know if it was the bloody, do you know what I mean, what day of the week or nothing, after a few weeks. And then one day they just come in and they brought me in, showered me, give me some bloody trousers, put me in a Jeep. I thought they're going to kill me. I thought they're going to take me into the bush and kill me. And then they drove me down to the border, and then they just dropped me off about 100 yards to the border with Namibia, Southwest Africa. And then they drove off, and I'm standing like that, and I don't know whether to run, I don't know what, do you know what I mean? And then I walked, and then they met me, and then a guy from the embassy had come to see me. They flew me down to Windhoek, and I was flown back to Amsterdam. And I said to him, I said, why was I released? And he said, it's political. He said, you know, there's obviously a political thing going on. Some people released, and some from this side, from that side, and whatever else. And when I got to Amsterdam airport, I collapsed. I was like about 8 stone, and I just collapsed, and I was in hospital for about 3 weeks.
Jesus.
After it, you know. And over that, I ended up. It's funny, like in them days, you know, nowadays you got what they call post-traumatic stress syndrome. Well, you didn't have that in the 90s. No one knew what that bloody was. Do you know what I mean? People just say you got depression, or do you know what I mean, anxiety. And for a lot of months, I was pretty fucked up in the head, do you know what I mean, with it all. And then, and it's only like, you know, after that they said, no, you was probably suffering from PTSD, what they got it, you know. Yeah, but I'm still here.
How did the other prisoners treat you in the cage?
It was, you know, the language barrier was quite difficult. So a lot of it was, you know, they treated me well because we was all together. You know, first of all, the first time I was in there, I was concussed anyway. I didn't know where I was. But it was, life is so cheap out there. And really, really cheap, you know. And they just, you know, we slept together, do you know what I mean? There was no beds, there was nothing, you know, and in the night time, sometimes it got cold out there in the desert. In the daytimes, it was unbelievable to eat, but in the night time, it was cold. And it was like, you know, you got to remember, there's a oil drum in the side of the thing, and you've got to go up and have a podium trap in it, same as everyone else. So, do you know what I mean? There was like a camaraderie, do you know what I mean? It was, you know, we shared our food. Everything was shared. The water was shared. And
what did they feed you?
Oh, it was bread. There was a couple of buckets they used to put in their water. Sometimes we'd get like it was like couscous. It wasn't like rice. It was like couscous. It was there was a heavy Cuban influence in Angola, there was a lot of people who interrogated me. They were Spanish. They were Spanish talking. If you're lucky, if you're lucky, you might get a few bananas thrown in. but mostly it was it was like a bucket. You had 2 buckets of water, and there was a cup in it, and there was a couple of buckets with bits of bread and stuff like that thrown in it. Look, it was hard.
Do you think that experience changed you in any way?
Yeah, it must have done. It must have done. It changed. It made me. How can I say it? It made me quite resentful, and maybe a little bit hateful as well. And it was but it changed me as well, because when you're literally like when you on a knife edge, where you don't care whether you live or whether you're going to die, or when you actually want to die. Do you know what I mean? You come back out, but I was young when I come back as well, Shaun. But when you come out, you start valuing things, and it fucks you up though in the head as well, because it made me more emotional than anything else. To tell the truth. When I think back of things about that now, I think back of it, and it absolutely wells me up not because of what they'd done to me, because some of the things I saw. Some of the things I saw where people what was in that cage got dragged out and killed.
Did they kill him in front of you guys?
Yeah, there was I saw a lot of things.
Just shot them all?
Yeah, shot them and beat them. There was one guy that come in and beat the living daylights out of him, left him in there with us for 3 days. And that heat and everything else, and it was, the guys, I don't know, because I think they were tribal, you know what I mean, in them parts of Africa, and I always remember they left the guy there, and they tried to put the man in a certain position, and they got the sand round him, and they all sat there in the night and everything. And he's sitting there. It's like, after 3 days as well. It's without being funny, but it stunk anyway in there because of where he was. And it was like, I was like, fucking, what take the man out. But in the end, they just did. It was funny. There was no. It's so strange because there was no where we was. There was no authority. Do you know what I mean? There was no one really making the decisions. And it was like the actual guy who actually pulled him out of the cell was like, who I thought was like one of the just junior bloody like prison officers, if you like. When we're saying bring him out, you think to yourself, well, one of the chiefs are going to have to come down, one of the thing and pull him out. But this fella just been shouted at. He just walked in there and picked him up, took him out, and threw him on the back of a lorry, threw him on the back of an open truck, back truck. So it was just strange. Do you know what I mean? There was no structure. There was no, you had messed constantly all the time with it, Shaun,
Were the guards dressed in military stuff?
Sometimes. Some of them weren't. The Cuban guys, the Spanish guys were usually, but they wasn't. A lot of the guys were dressed in khaki stuff. When I was there as well, a lot of them, there was like the UNITA rebels. It was like I was banged up with, and but it was the communism. There was a lot of communism problems and stuff like that with Angola in them days, and it kicked off. Then the war stopped and it started again, and then you had the bloody South Africa got involved, and then it kicked off, and then it went civil war again. Do you know what I mean? It was the country was a mess. It was an absolute mess. It was. Rich country, a lot of money we got there, but but there was this flip side to the coin, you know what I mean? And that's what we got.
Was the sleeping situation like in Thailand then, where everyone's just on the floor back to back next to each other?
Yeah, he's just laying there, You're just laying there. There's, there was, you had nothing. You was on the sand. You was on the sand, and scorpions, bloody spiders, sand spiders. Do you know what I mean? It's funny that the guards used to do those to bet money. They used to get the boxes, and they used to put the scorpions against the sand spiders. They used to put them in the boxes. We used to watch that. You know what I mean? They used to learn like the cockle fighting. You know what I mean?
I do watch insect battles on YouTube, stuff like that. Wow, man, that must have pushed you into temporary insanity then, I guess.
Yeah, well.
So, getting jailed in Cyprus, was that easier at least?
Yeah, that was a funny. That was a funny story. It was a pal of mine, and he said he'd come over here, Joe. It was in the winter. He said come over here, and all of a sudden he's gone like come over, and he was doing the credit cards, and going out, moody credit cards. So I've gone out to him, and we're going in this shop, going in that shop, and buying this and buying that, and all of a sudden one night I've got drinking with all the squaddies. We was in where was it? Paphos. Oh, it was Paphos, and then no, Limassol. We was in Limassol. This was, and then all of a sudden, like with they're talking about there was this doorman. He was the toughest doorman in all of Cyprus, and they're all talking about him. And so I'm drunk like that. So I said, I'll have a row with him then. I said, I'll have a punch up with him. You know what I mean? Right. So like, I've gone out in front of him, and I went, oh, you come here. Boom, and he starts doing all this kung fu karate stuff on me. He's jumping up in the air, he's kicking me, and I can't punch you. I'm going, come on, you fucking, let's have a, and he's going, wow, he's jumping up, he's kicking me, I'm going on the floor. So I jumped out, I said, bollocks to you, mate. I said, I can't fight you. Do you know what I mean? I'm pissed. I said, how can I fight you? I said, you put your hands up and fight. You keep jumping up in the bed like fucking Bruce Lee. Right? So I fucked up, I've gone, but the old Bill got caught. And someone said, he's gone to that complex. So when we've gone back, all of a sudden the doors come in at 4 o'clock in the morning. The fucking place is like Aladdin's cave. You imagine all the bags we got, all the Gucci stuff and all the fucking stuff from the credit cards. I'm laying there, I've got concussion, my eyes out like that, so my eyes shut from the fight. And they've come in to nick me for the fight and found all this Aladdin's cave. So they've nicked us, we've gone back. And it was quite empty then. It was and I went to my mate. I said, "Listen," I said, "Can you imagine what it's like out here in the summer?" I said, "All these Cypriots, right? They get it from the English every night of the week for months." I said, "Now it's winter." I said, "Now they're gonna want to get their fucking revenge back on me and you." I said, "So when we walk in this nick," I said, "put your head up high and your shoulders back, right?" And it was the same. You walked in, all looking for the cages, right? And I went, all right, bang. I walked in, and it was all right. And then I broke out.
How did you do that?
Do you know, I kind of, when I look back at it now, I think, how did I have the fucking bottle? Right? It was, and it was funny with, and it was like they took me up to interview me. What happened? I got not guilty in Limassol, and when all of a sudden they took me to Paphos, and when Limassol at the court, I'm going, I want my passport. So they're going to, the police are coming with your passport. I said, well, I'm fucking free to go. I said, you know what I mean? The judges said, no, weren't no further action. He just said, you know what I mean? Quit it, no evidence. So I said, I want my fucking passport. They've turned up Paphos CID, because all CID had it. CID's turned up and they've arrested me for the same crime, but now in Paphos. So I said, you fucking liberty takers, you know what I mean? So they took me back to Paphos. And then also we're sitting there like, and they used to come in and when they're interrogating me, they're sitting down, and he had a key, and he used to keep opening the door with a key. He was opening the door with a key, like, and all of a sudden, like, he's coming in, and I see him. He took his jacket off and he's put the key in his pocket. Right, so he's gone out, and another fella's come in, and he's walked in like that, and they've walked out, and I've heard them lock the door, but I know his jacket's there with a key in it. So I'm sitting like, I'm like, you get up, take 2 steps, sit back down. Do you know what I mean? Then I got next to it, I got my hand in the pocket. I got the key. So now I'm like, so now I've walked over. Now I'm at the door, opened. Right, so now back like that again. So I opened the fucking door. And I looked at it. There's a set of stairs. I said, bollocks to it. I was off. What I said, well, he said, I got out. I ran off. Ended up slipping up. And then I tried to get into Famagusta. I had no passport, no money, I had nothing. And I tried to get into Famagusta, tried to get over to the Turkish side. I got nicked there.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean? So, right, and I got nicked there and I got took back again. And then
straight back to the same place.
Yeah, it took me back again, you know what I mean? Then I got not guilty. But it was a funny thing, Shaun, I'll tell you quick. The cop is so thick. You know, imagine like with me, I'm used to Scotland Yard. And there's a credit card, right? And it's got... And it was an Arab's name. It was Mr. Zahid or something like that, right? And the guy's gone, the CID's put a card on the table. I want you to sign that signature. So I went, are you fucking for real? Do you know what I mean? So he wants to see what my signature of that signature is. He's put the card in front of me. Now, I ain't going to sign it, nothing like that signature, am I? You know what I mean? The Zahid's like that. I was like, Z, 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 you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and he was, I was CID, you know.
So you get back to promoting in the 2000s with a world title.
Yeah, it was, like we said, we done some work with, I was working with I joined an association called the Professional Boxing Promoters Association. Through that, I met a guy called John Felt, who ended up becoming the president of the World Boxing Federation. And a fight fell on our laps. I was running a show at York Hall, and we put it together. It was a WBF was it was one of these belts. It wasn't a WBC or WBA or one of the mainstream, but it was a professional world championship belt. At the time, Roy Jones, who was one of the greatest fighters of all, was actually the World Boxing Federation champion. So there was some credibility there. And we ended up putting the show on Mark Baker against Ali Forbes at York Hall. Sold the place out. It was like, you only meant to have 1,600 people in there. We had like 2,000 people in there. And that was another thing. I was the youngest ever professional promoter who put a stage of world title as well, Shaun. So
why didn't you stick with that?
A lot of politics, red tape with the board. I don't know whether it was, I actually go into it, a lot of it in my book, and there's a chapter on it. And there's some good people at the British Boxing Board of Control. So no, I'm not, I don't want to tie everyone with the same brush. You've got some good people who come out of boxing background, some people come out of street background. Then you got other people who come out of Oxford and Cambridge and, ex-barristers and stuff like that. And I was just getting the opinion that they were favouring the TV promoters too much. Do it's like if I rang them up and said I want to do this and I want to do that, it was like, it was that attitude. And like if Frank Warren would have done it, or Eddie Hearn, or Barry Hearn rather in them days, or one of them would have done it, they would have went, yeah, sure, Frank. But for me, it was like do you know what I mean? It was like a burden to them. It was what they call small hall promoting. Which is non-TV promoting. But I actually had a row with the Boxing News, and I said, you're wrong calling us small hall promoters. I said, Frank Warren promotes in the same fucking venue as what I promote. So why when I promote a show there, am I called a small hall promoter? I said, it's the same fucking hall we're promoting in. I said, and what you're doing, I said, when you're calling me a small hall promoter, you're affecting me from having the chance of signing top-class amateurs. Because they don't want to sign for someone who's called a small hall fucking promoter. Do you know what I mean, Shaun? Yeah. So there was all this bollocks and all this cobblers all wrapped around it. And in the end, I just got fed up with it. And, and there was alternatives on the table. So. And
that was unlicensed boxing?
Yeah.
And you guys came up with the governor title. How did that come about?
It came about... It's a funny thing, and it's a long answer, to tell the truth. And I'll give you a best descriptive of what I can for this interview. It's obviously the governor come about with Roy and Lenny McLean, and it come from Roy shouting at Lenny, come from newspaper articles, and I mean going, who's the governor? With Roy, sure. And then Lenny shouting out the ring, who's that governor? Do you know what I mean? It's all that romance, that bloody, do you know what I mean? What everyone going. But it was never a governor title in them days. They never boxed for a title called the governor. They boxed for other titles called other names. When we started up the unlicensed, me and Ricky English, it was about 2000. And then all of a sudden, we started putting shows on. We created a thing called the English Boxing Federation, the EBF. And we started putting shows on, and we created a title. First title we done was South London title, Tooting title. Southern area title. We even had a title called the fucking kebab title. Two great big fat fellas, and we got them in the ring. And we said, right, this is for the fucking kebab title, you know. We didn't care less, you know what I mean? So, but we created it. But the heavyweights, people started saying, Ricky get in the ring and get the mic, and they go, right, this is to see who the governor is. The governor's a tag. It's a term. Do you know what I mean? And it's like what I said, like, when, people going around saying, like, I'm the governor, right? It's London. It's a London saying. Do you know what I mean? If you come from Liverpool, you'd be telling me saying, I'm the fucking cock. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a London term. It's a tag what come to it, and it's got embedded into folklore with the title. But then we started creating the title. And so the first time we started having belts, we asked Roy's permission. The first belt was called the Roy Shaw belt, and then it evolved to the governor title. And we had some good fights with it, some great fights with it, some good boys, Sven Hamer and people like that. And it just nowadays people they ring me up and they go, Joe, the title's royalty. Do you know what I mean? But because we got the history, we got the hierarchy. Do you know what I mean? We got the going back, it was my dad who promoted Roy and Lenny. So
And you also got into the music industry around that time. And in the beginning, we talked about your relationship with Ori and how you dealt with Suge Knight. Have you got any Suge Knight stories?
Yeah, Suge. When we first went over there, the first time I met Suge was when I went over to Los Angeles with COE and that. And Suge was banged up. He was in Sacramento prison. It was up, I don't know if it's called Sacramento, but it was in Sacramento, the prison was. So, so I've gone over there, and Ori was in prison at the time. And so I've gone over there to see his boy Anthony, and he said, right, we're going to have to fly up to Sacramento, because it's a long slap, in it, from fucking Los Angeles to Sacramento. Night before, I was on the piss, got pissed, so I'm doing like an hole in the edge, so we jumped up, went up there, rented a car, and then gone to Sacramento, gone to the prison, gone in there, and they said, you're not on the list. I've got fucking berserk, and I said, I must be on the fucking list. I've come all the way from the UK, London. They went, no, they forgot to put you on the list. Right, so we've had a fucking Stuart, arguing with him, and we weren't getting nowhere in the end. We've had to go, so we ended up going back to we've gone back to LA. So we've got there. I went to Anthony. I said, take me to the fucking office now. I said, take me to that office right now. You know what I mean? So he went right. So we got back and walked up. I said, is Cedric here? Suge used to have a fella called Cedric. He used to run all these things. So I'm standing there. I went, yeah, who's here? I said, who's here? I said, you know who's here? It's Jay Pyle. I've flown all the bloody way up to Los Angeles. He's gone all the way up there, and that idiot ain't put me on the fucking list. You know what I mean? So I said, tell him I'm here. Like, it's about 10, 20 minutes has gone, Shaun. All of a sudden, he's sitting there. I've gone up there again. I said, does he know I'm here? You know what I mean? So she went, yeah, he's just, I said, well, tell him, you know what I mean? But I mean, about another 10 minutes, going, bollocks. I said, where's his office? So we've gone flying down, I've kicked the fucking door in. As I've gone in there, do you know what this Cedric's doing? He's sitting there eating fucking chicken wings. Box of fucking chicken wings. I'm sitting like that. I said, you taking the fucking bosh? The chicken wings have gone off the table, you know what I mean? I said, you fuck. I said, what do you think? I've flown all the way over here for a fucking Chinese meal, you fucking, we've gone into him. And one of the reasons why we had to go over as well, I had to speak to Suge about it, he had to pay some money. So, and then, I said to Cedric as well, Rory as well, what he told you about, I said, listen, we'll pay that fucking money. That money's got to be paid, you know what I mean? And it was sorted out. We come back, and then, I had a couple of more days there, and then come back to London, and then, he sent, we got some money, a cheque and all that, you know what I mean? It was nice, and that was the first time. But, the second time meeting Suge and all them was, over them guys, when I went back out with Ori, and but Suge was in a lot of trouble then. And I ended up running Death Row UK. And it was when we had a meet with him, and I went to him. I said, "Do you actually know how big Death Row music is?" And he was like, "Yeah." I said, "No, do you?" I said, "You got $500 million record label. You got one fucking office." You know what I mean? He was like, "Oh." I said, "You ain't even got an office in New York." I said, "Do you know how big Death Row is in Europe?" He's like, "Oh, what?" I said, "Let us run Europe. Let us sign talent up in Europe. I said, do you know how much talent there is in the UK? Do you know how much talent there is in fucking Holland, in France, and fucking everywhere? I said, let us run fucking Death Row, fucking Europe. You know, and after a few things, and that was it. He gave us a few quid, and we went away and we set up Death Row, and Mark Morrison was first ever signed into Death Row UK.
It says here Brian Harvey. Is that the E16 guy?
Yeah, Brian.
Oh wow, he got to phrase this carefully. He did a lot of videos attacking me because I had a guy on that he didn't like on the podcast, John Wedger. And I looked at these videos and I thought, man, I just feel for this guy, you know. He seems like he's gone through some stuff.
He's gone off his head though, isn't he, lately? And some of the people are sending me this stuff. And,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and he's really bloody... I haven't spoken to Brian for a few years, you know.
Yeah.
And Brian was funny with... so talented, that kid, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
He could... Oh, I'm telling you now, he could sing. And he was so... Mark was the opposite. Mark couldn't care less about doing radio shows and stuff like that. But Brian he'd be willing to go and do anything, Shaun.
Yeah.
And but the public, after that E thing and everything else, no matter what he did, do you know what I mean? They wouldn't. They just Radio 1 and all them. You know, I mean, them days if you wanted a hit, you had to go for Radio 1 out the pump. Your hit. And you know, I remember we'd done a great big show at Ronnie Scott's. We invited all the Radio 1 DJs there. We gave them goodie bags. We spent a lot of money, do you know what I mean? And it was a song with fucking Wycliffe Jean, for fuck's sake. You know, it was hot as fucking hell at the time. And, you know, give them everything. And they all stood there, shook their hands. Yeah, we're going to support him, you know. But they just, it was uncool to support Brian Harvey at the time, you know what I mean? And then we tried, and then he just went, you know. I remember Brian Harvey when we took him out in New York to do in the studio with Wycliffe. And Wycliffe was wanting to sign him up to what he's labelled the refugee crew. And we've all jumped in limos and we've gone up to Rochester, upstate New York. And there's a great big like radio, you know, like Party in the Park, you have Capital Radio. There was a radio station up there. And also Wycliffe's on the stage and he's singing and all that and everything. He said, "Wow, I've got my new signing now from the UK, Brian Harvey." Right? Brian's like, what do you want me to do? And like, you know, he said, "What am I going to do?" And I said, "Just go and fucking sing something." "Well, sing what?" "Sing fucking Happy Birthday." "What do you want me to sing?" You know, so I've got no fucking music on. I said, "Just go up there, just let him sing the song and riff, you know what I mean? Get in on it." You know, Brian's got up there and they started singing a famous song with Wycliffe, and Brian's coming on it, you know what I mean? Brian, all that, whoa, you know, but they do all that, you know. The crowd went crazy, you know what I mean? You know, and he had the balls to do that.
Yeah.
You know, I think there was about 10,000 people in the crowd, you know.
Wow.
You know. Funny story that I'll tell you quickly, Shaun, with Brian. Here's another story. He was, you know, 9/11.
Yeah.
We sent him over there at the time to do, he was over there to do some more recording. And he was with Clive Black. A good pal of mine, Clive. His father was Don Black, who was wrote Diamonds Are Forever, Born Free and all them, one of the top lyricists in countries ever known, won the Oscar. And so they're over there, 9/11's it, and it's about 9 o'clock in the morning out there. Now you imagine New York's like fucking bedlam, do you know what I mean? But you know, Clive's downstairs like that in the hotel. It's about, you know, it's just off of Times Square, so the dust is everywhere. There's people being treated medically in the thing. Brian Harvey's got out of bed about 11 o'clock. Hasn't heard any of it, what's going on, you know. Walks down like that, and Clive's down there, and everyone's screaming and shouting, and then Brian's like, "What the fucking hell's going on?" I mean, Clive's, "Where you been?" He said, "There's World War III going on out there." Clive's got that. Brian's gone, "Oh, fucking, I suppose Foot Locker's fucking closed, then, isn't it?" I went back to bed. Right. Went back, I walked upstairs, got to the hotel, went back to bed, pissed off because he couldn't go to Foot Locker. You know, but I don't mean that in a bad way, because he didn't realise what was going on, do you know what I mean? He's gone to bed and had a smoke and fucking woke up in the morning and fucking, you know what I mean?
So is it easy managing musicians then? I mean, like, are they getting going partying all the time, getting high, doing crazy shit?
Yeah, it's, you know, like with anything else, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I was used to it from managing boxers as well.
Yeah.
And it's some good old stories what we had to do, and make out a few things, and but it was you get your prima donnas.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? In the boxing and the fucking music, But you just got to put them right. I think Mark. I think one of the first weeks I was managing him, he was like. It was like, oh, Joe, I got some dry cleaning to be picked up in Kensington. I said, what are you fucking calling me for? Do you know what I mean? I live in Tooting. I said, I've got some fucking dry cleaning. Oh, do you want to come and pick that up? Do you know what I mean? So, you got to nip it in the bud and put it to bed straight away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shaun, and, it was, that couple of little fannies we done with Mark when we tried to get him in the studio and made out there was some people looking for him and getting back working, and it's all fun and games, you know what I mean?
So then came your father's death and a power struggle. What happened there?
It was a tough time. It was a tough time, and it was the year before my father died. I was earning a lot of money. I didn't need money. My dad obviously had motor neurone, so and he was ill. So there was some work we had to with some other people, and I was involved in the work. And I'll tell you what the work is. It was work we had we had foreigners, we had Polish guys and stuff like that working at building sites, cheap labour. And we was getting a backhander for we had 300-400 labourers at the time. And so the guy, but because I was earning a lot of money, I said to the guy, look, just pay my share to my dad. I don't need that money, do you know what I mean? Give it to him. Right. So when my dad passed away, because of that scenario was going on, now he thinks to himself, he ain't got to pay me the money. But now I jumped because I went, right, I said, listen, right, next week, I said, is that money still coming in? You know what I mean? He went, yeah. I said, okay. I said, we'll have a meet, got to sort out. He went, oh, no, they would do it. I went, no. I said, do you know what I mean? It was my father. I said, I was involved in the fucking business, as you know, but I pulled out the thing. I said, so, I want that money. So it went on a little bit, and he did. In the end, I phoned him up and I said, look, are we on a collision course here, son? Do you know what I mean? And he went, no, we're not. We're not on a collision course, Joe. We're good. And he's turned up on a meeting at a fucking restaurant. He's got 2 ex-special service fucking Polish fucking fellas with him like that. And I'm on my own, you know what I mean? Carried on, gave him a lot of warnings, and then things got out of hand. And I had to, do you know what I mean? Me and my brothers just said, Joe, we just got to go back to the old days, mate. Got to go back to the old days and send a message. We sent a message. And then from that message, he ran to someone who I'd known a long time and very, very respected villain. He ran to him and he phoned me up and said, Joe, listen, we need to have a meeting here. This is getting silly. This is, you know what I mean? This is a lot of people going to get pulled into this and everything else. I said, all right. I went, all right, well, I don't mind. I'll have a meeting. That's what I've been trying to do since day one anyway, so I don't mind it. And then the meeting was called for, it was a week after or something, and it was 3 o'clock. We turned up at 4 o'clock. I was in the pub. There was me, my brothers, Roy Shaw was there, Brian Emmett Senior was with me, David Thursday, and there was a few of us. And then I did turn up to about 4 o'clock and make them fucking wait. And then I walked in there, and then they're sitting there, and then I've gone straight in there, and I told him, and I said, look, Wilf Pine was in there. God bless Wilf. But Wilf was in there just to make sure everything. I think a lot of people was in there just to make sure there was no trouble. They weren't taking sides. And Wilf turned around and went, can you sit down, Joe, and let's talk about it? And I said, no, I ain't sitting down, nothing. I said, I'm telling these 2 cunts, you know what I mean? I said, it was my father. I said, they took the fucking piss. I said, you know what I mean? I said, I've tried my hardest to be fair about it. I said, and if it's got to go, it's got to go. And then, Roy Shaw was with me, Roy jumped forward. And Roy jumped forward and went, I love him for this, Roy. Do you know what I mean? And he turned around and he said, listen, I don't give a fuck if Joe's in the right or wrong. That's my best mate's son. And if anyone wants to have a row with him, they got to come through me first. Do you know what I mean? That's proper. Do you know what I mean? That's the type of thing I would do to my best mates. If my best mate died and his son was in a bit of shit, Do you know what I mean? There was no agendas. There was no agenda. There was no money. You know what I mean? You couldn't buy Roy Shaw. Do you know what I mean? You know, when you're proper, you're strong. There's not enough money on the table to buy that loyalty. It ain't for sale. And Roy walked in that room and showed everyone in that room. You know, he said, "That's it. This is the way it fucking is." That I can't sit here. And the same as me. Do you know what I mean? My mate died, and someone wanted to have a row with his son, and I could stand there over a pound note and watch someone want to have a row with my mate's fucking son. I couldn't do that in a million years, Shaun.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And that was Roy's attitude. Do you know what I mean? It was the same thing. He went, "Yeah, what are you asking me to stand by and watch these arseholes have a row with Joe?" No, that ain't happening. And that's why I love Roy so much. You know what I mean? Not just that, but that was the way he was. You know, Roy Shaw.
Yeah.
You know?
So what made you want to write the book then?
It was a lot of, well, to tell the truth, the book's been bits and bobs and notes and everything else for a long time. There's been a lot of interviews with the unlicensed boxing websites, and there's been documentaries, what we've been featured in and everything like that. So, you know, it was a natural progression to actually put those things down. But a lot of the things as well is, you know, the book's always been in me. Do you know what I mean? Like you know, especially like when we started the unlicensed boxing, there was no Facebook, there was no YouTube. It was 2002. Do you know what I mean? I think Facebook they came in 2004, didn't it? 2005. I think all that came in. There was none of that. You had websites, and but we did document everything. So there was a lot of interviews, and then we've had stuff with. I know James done stuff for us for the shows, and Liam from Gangster Videos done bits and bobs. So there's always been documented history of what we did. And but over the last year, to be honest with you, there's been a lot of people, like especially on Facebook, where they create groups and all going on about this governor title and everything else. And you know, Brian, I tell you, you know, the times I sit there and I'm like, I just cannot believe the absolute cobblers, what is being said. You know, some of it. And I'm not one to have an argument over Facebook or anything. I use Facebook to, you know, to do, you know, my Facebook was called Joey London. But when I'm managing boxers, the people are going to me, their dads are going, "Oh, who's your manager?" And they're going, "Joey London." Who the fuck knows Joey London? So I changed it to Joey Pyle, but I would never have changed it. So that's what I used it for boxing, not for personal beefs or anything like that. And so I never ever, I look at it like that, and sometimes I'd like to put something on it. I'd like to write something on it and go, God, like, but I won't. So I thought, do you know something? And then over the last few months, there's been a couple of people gone out and they've copied our belt. You know, they've gone out and they've created a belt. I thought, okay, I don't care. Do you know what I mean? I don't care. Go and call whatever you want to do. Do you know what I mean? I don't care. You know what I mean? I ain't copyrighted the governor. You can't copyright a word like the governor. Do you know what I mean? So if you want to call a belt the governor, go and do it. Do you know what I mean? It don't matter. And then, you know, because I look at it the same thing. You know, if you go and bloody cook yourself a bloody hamburger, you know what I mean? It might be the best hamburger in the world, but it's not a Big Mac. Do you know what I mean? You can't say it's a Big Mac. Do you know what I mean? You might think it's wonderful, but it ain't a Big Mac. Do you know what I mean? My title's the Big Mac. So, I mean, do what you got to do. But then they started putting our title down. You know what I mean? Their title's fake. Their title's fake. They're this, they're that. We're the real this and real that. So now we've had to answer. Do you know what I mean? So now I've had to say, okay. I said, right, the guy who's calling my title fake actually was a guy who won my title, and he's earning a living saying he was an ex-governor. So, but in the second breath, he's saying our title's fake. So hold up a minute. Is he proud to say he's a governor, and now he's saying it's fake, right? So, you know, so we're sitting there. So I thought, right, do you know something? I'll write the fucking book. Right, I'll write the book. I'll put the book, and you know, be honest. And then there's a couple of things I did put on the group page. You know, I said, right. I said, you want the truth? Well, be careful. Pandora's box is fucking opening. So, but I don't know how far I'm going to go with it, to tell the truth. It's near enough all written. And there's a picture of Roy and Lenny there.
So, of all these governors, then, who do you think had the most about them?
You know, do
Or
you know?
is it bits, they each had different qualities?
Yeah, it's very difficult to say. Do you know what I mean? Fantasy matchup fights is people Rocky Marciano against Muhammad Ali. It's very hard. It's very
Yeah.
difficult. And all you're doing really is an opinion. It's not a fact.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So and I don't really like. Do you know what I mean? But that's what makes me laugh with the Facebook thing as well. People put their opinions over, and then they put underneath, "It's a fact. I read it." Right? And I'm like, but and you know, and some of the people they're talking about, and you know, one of them's very famous. You know, wrote a fucking best-selling book. Actually said to me in my ear, "Oh, Joey, do you know what these books are all about? 70% truth, 30% complete and utter bollocks." Right? And you know, but when you're saying about the obviously Roy and Lenny,
I should have asked what made them unique.
what made them unique? Right. Well, first of all, Roy and Lenny, they were very, very well known fellas outside of boxing. Do you know what I mean? Roy was more well known than Lenny. Do you know what I mean? Roy was well known, obviously, with a great connection. When they started off, do you know the actual people who actually publicised and made the actual unlicensed boxing was funny enough the people who was trying to bloody get rid of it. The British Boxing Board of Control, they couldn't get it out of their head. Do you know, they kept turning around every time they were so worried about protecting their own little thing what they had going. Every time they could get an interview or newspaper inches, they was going like, "This is illegal, this is illicit, this is it's run by gangsters." Jesus Christ, that's a perfect storm for newspaper. But do you know what I mean? You know, also we've got illicit boxing run by, you're talking about the craze who only been banged up 8, 9 years. Now you've got the lunatic from Broadmoor, friend of the craze, ex-armed robber, underground illicit boxing. Gee, the press lapped it up. And it was all the board who stirred the bloody pot. But they didn't learn, they kept doing it. So you had that situation then when Lenny beat Roy. And then when Lenny got into acting, when the book came out, that's what really made Lenny into you got housewives now who've never known about boxing, but they've heard of Lenny McLean. You know, before the book and before Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and stuff like that, they didn't know. So, they created, they come from that. And then Roy Shaw, obviously. You can't mention Lenny McLean without mentioning Roy Shaw. And that's the funny thing about it. No matter how much they disliked each other, their names are always going to be bloody linked. Do you know what I mean? It's the funny thing. And but there's been some good boys. There's been some good fighters since then, what we've done. But, Lenny and Roy were what really, they were the ones what cemented unlicensed boxing, do you know what I mean?
We interviewed Decker Heggie.
Mm.
What was unique about him?
Decker, Decker won the title, but he didn't win it against the fighter what he should have won it against. He was meant to fight Welsh Phil. Welsh Phil was a former governor of ours. Welsh Phil's an handful. He's you in the governor things. You got your fighters, your pro boxers, and like Johnny Wardron and Cliff Field and people like that. But they're nice guys. Do you know what I mean? They're nice guys. They're ex-pros, so they come from a bloody background where they get in the Queensberry rules. Your Lenny McLean's and Roy Shaws that jump all over you and stamp all over you. They're the ones what are nicking the bloody newspaper headlines. They're the ones what people are coming out to see, the bad guys. Do you know what I mean? They might not be the best boxers, but they're the ones the people are coming to see. Decker was a nice guy. Him against Welsh Phil. Welsh Phil's an animal. Welsh Phil's a good mate of mine, but Welsh Phil went to me and said, "Joe, I don't care what I've got to do. I'll bite his fucking head off. I will rip his face off in the ring. Whatever I've got to do, you know what I mean? I'll win the fight." So that was the fight. And someone come to me, they had Decker, Vicky English had him. I'd never met Decker. He said, "Do you want to do it?" And Welsh Phil said he won't fight without me, out of loyalty, because he's my mate. And so that was it. But then the old Bill got involved, and the old Bill and went to venues and said it's bare knuckle boxing, which it wasn't. It dropped out. And then there was we finally got a venue what we could put this fight on. And about 2 weeks before the fight, Welsh Phil was ill. I'm talking about proper ill. Yeah, he rushed out of the gym in accident emergency by an ambulance. It was touch and go whether he'd live, never mind bloody fight. Do you know what I mean, Shaun? Right? So that's off. So now, as people bought flights, as people booked hotels, as the undercard sold all their tickets, the fight's been on and off for the last 3 months. If we cancel again, people, do you know what I mean? I've already had months of people going, God, do the promoters know what they're fucking doing? Yeah, we do, but, this is the world of promoting. Shit happens, you know what I mean? And we deal with it. That's why we're promoters. So in the end, I got Julius Francis to fight him. No one would fight Decker, right? No one at that short notice would step in and fight him. So I got Julius Francis, right, the man who fought Mike Tyson. I had a meeting with Julius, and it was.
Is that the big guy who was Madonna's bodyguard?
I don't know if he might have been. He was a big guy. He was a British champion, European champion. Julius was. Boxed Mike Tyson. I mean, he boxed him twice. I think Julius did. He boxed him twice. Julius was the one where the Daily Mirror actually advertised on the soles of his. When he fought Mike Tyson, they actually put ads, the Daily Mirror, on the soles of his boots because they knew he was going to get knocked out. But he still got in the ring. But Julius, to be honest, he was. I think he knew we wanted Decker to win. I think he turned up for a power note. And he went into journeyman mode, and he just mucked about, messed about, and played the game to get himself a few quid at the end of the night, and walked home. Tried to stay out of the way as much as what he could. You know what I mean? And he got paid a few quid, got paid a few grand. And then I said to Decker, right, you got to, right, you've won the title against a journeyman, really. Do you know what I mean? Again, it should have been you and Welsh Phil. That's what the fight's about. But you've won it, so now you've got the belt. But you've got to defend it. You can't, do you know what I mean? You can't think, and it had to be Welsh Phil. But then things happened that didn't work out again. And we was trying to put that on last year, and that didn't work out. But
so who's got the belt now?
No, it's vacant, really.
It's vacant?
Yeah, it's vacant.
So there's no official governor?
No, it's vacant. It was, it was... Decker that, and then then what happened? We done a before the Decker fight. We done a thing with Tyrone Williams, and I was in the pros, and then I was mucking about, and then we come back, and I said, "I'll tell you what we do." I said, why don't we do a heavyweight competition, prize fighter of heavyweights, and whoever wins it will be like the guardian of the governor belt. But then when he's the guardian, what he's got to do is people challenge him. And then he doesn't really become the governor until he fights someone. Do you know what I mean? Until Lenny McLean fights a Roy Shaw. Do you know what I mean? And so that was, in theory, that was a good idea. Let's get 8 heavyweights, all good fighters, and then whoever wins the toughest guy, and then the other people can make a challenge and that can go on. And then Decker fought against Tyrone, got beat. So Tyrone beat him. But then Tyrone decided he wants to go professional. Now you can't have a professional and still have the governor title. So that was like last year, what we said, we're right, all right, he's gone professional then, right, we'll have Decker against Welsh Phil again. And then I won't condemn a man from rumour. Do you know what I mean? It was a lot of talk about this and a lot of talk about that and everything else. And I said, look, well, unless someone can actually show me black and white or something like that, And then someone turned around and said, how are you promoting that guy? He got nicked for pinching a bird's arse in a nightclub. And I'm like,
well, I got that as well. They were saying, how can you interview that guy? But it seems like there's a lot of people putting things together to destroy his reputation.
That's what I thought originally, Shaun. And I still don't know the truth now, to tell the truth, because like they said there was a thing called Humble Dryer, is it? Humble Dryer or some page or something. I never even looked at it. All I know is the people I was working with told me, said, Joe, it's all cobblers. So I trusted the people I was working with. And then people are messaging me, how can you work with this? How can you do this? How can you do that? And then when they come up with that pinching a bird's arse, I went, well, you going to call a man a nonce for pinching a bird's arse in a nightclub? I said, fuck me.
It said in the same article, she'd already consensually had sex with him in the toilet.
Yeah. You know, so where do you go from there? You know, and it's not an underage girl, is it? She's in a nightclub, right? So I'm looking at that, and then it was an escalation of things, to tell the truth. It was, you know, it was that, and then I'm sitting there, and it just ain't. Do you know what I mean? It was just, you know, I'm like, if there is a chance, if there is a bloody chance of it, do you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, with the guy we're working with, then we found out the venue what we was working with, they didn't have a drinks license, so we could only put 500 people in. The venue wants 25 grand, and I'm like, well, if we can't sell beer to 15, 1600 people, how are we going to pay the 25 grand? How are we going to pay Decker? How are we going to pay Welshfield? I said, it just ain't adding up, and everything else. So I just went bomb out of it. Do you know what I mean?
That's a shame, isn't it?
You know. It's funny, like when you're saying about, you know, with all these slur and all these slant. It's the same thing with the other week when I just had a pop-up with and someone, they'd done one of these interviews about Roy, and they put on it the Roy Shaw Jimmy Savile connection, and I went fucking mad. Do you know what I mean? When I said it, do you know what I mean? I saw it. You know, someone told me, you know, I said, you're clickbaiting. Do you know what I mean? I said, there is no fucking connection with Roy Shaw and Jimmy Savile. Do you know what I mean? It's 100% fucking clickbaiting, and it's wrong. It's wrong because Roy Shaw would be rolling in his grave to do you know what I mean? Jimmy Savile was he was the governor, or he was working in Bourbon when Roy Shaw was in. It's like, you know what, it's saying me and you have a conversation now, and I just said to you I was on a visit and Sutcliffe was in. It's like now you put it up and going, the Joe Pyle Sutcliffe connection. I would go fucking mad, Shaw. So just marking your card, you know. But you know what I'm saying? It's trying to get views for fucking thingy bob. And so like I phoned, you know, I got hold of him the other day. I said, take the fucking, it's wrong, take it down. I said, there's a million and one things you can say about Roy Shaw. You can talk about. You know what I mean? Don't do that. You know what I mean? And so when you're touching on that, Savile and all this other thing, it's and you know, it's just a world which you know, when you know, look, I don't want to put words in the wrong way here, but you know, but the things what we're saying about Decker, I don't know whether it's true or whether they're not. I met Decker 3 times. He seems like a nice fella, but it was just at the end of the day, it was something I wasn't willing to go forward with. Do you know what I mean, John?
So outside of the unlicensed boxing, there was some kind of gang wars going on. Is that the case?
Well, there's always been rows in there. Always been rows on the boxing.
Have you got any stories of gang warfare, or is that not somewhere you can go?
Oh, you've got to be a bit careful.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, obviously there's a well-documented one, you know, it's in the book, you know, with, there was an argument happened between Freddie Foreman and the Nash family at the Roy shot. Have you ever seen the original Governor documentary?
No.
I'll get you a copy, it's unbelievable. It's probably the best boxing documentary I've ever seen. It's done to all Bruce Springsteen soundtrack and Supertramp. It's beautiful. I'll send you a copy. But in the crowd, it kicks off, and you can see Freddie Foreman having an argument with a couple of Nash family and people like that, and they're smashing each other with chairs all over the place. You know. But later on down the years, we end up being best of mates. You know, but that was a funny thing. You know, it's funny. A couple of times at Caesars, we've had absolutely mad turnouts with. And I funny we was talking about earlier. We had one. It was all the football hooligans in there, and the fighting was going on for about 15, 20 minutes. It was.
Weren't you at that one, James?
Yes, that's what he was saying. And I've still got the hump with him today, right, because the footage would have been gold dust.
Yeah,
I'm telling you. But as soon as it went off, he was out the door.
Oh.
The footage would have been unbelievable that night. I mean, there was 500 people throwing bottles and everything else at each other.
Don't you think they would have turned on him though for filming them?
Oh, I don't know.
It's evidence, isn't it? That could have been used.
Chelsea headhunters, it was. You know what I mean? All the Chelsea boys.
They wouldn't have appreciated James filming them doing that. Did you?
and the old Bill turned up and they said, "You go in the old Bill." We ain't going in there. Let them fucking hurt each other. You know what I mean? I think 200 odd people turned up at Accident Emergency that night.
Wow.
You know, it was a
Braveheart.
Yeah, it was a crazy thing. You know, there's a few other bits and bobs, but I can't talk about it. You know what I mean? But
What was the most memorable fixed fight?
oh Jesus! I know what I'd like to say. I know what I'd like to say. Um, let's just say, look, you know, if you're the governor,
Yeah.
you got to fight a challenger.
Yeah.
You can't just keep fighting journeyman
Mm-hmm.
and then retire
Yeah.
and then retire. But you know, fixed fights. We've had loads. There was one night. I'll tell you it's only a little story. It's a small one. It was we had a kid for us, Paddy and Ginger, and they used to fight on all our shows. And then one night we got him in, we put him in the ring. It was like he's fighting second on the show. So he's got medical like that. Got him. I said to the fella, right, it's going over in one man. So he's got him. He got knocked out. He's gone back to the change room, changed his shorts, and come out about 3 fights later with a different name. Right, to fight another opponent. He's got in the ring. The doctor's run over me. The doctor's having kittens because his insurance. You know what I mean? The doctor's going, Joe, what are you doing? I said, it's all right. I said, don't worry, it's fixed. I said, he's going over with a body shot. You know what I mean? I said, it's all this pantomime. You know what I mean? You know, so we did get up to some. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We got up to some funny bloody things. You know, another fixed fight we had. It was 2 big fellas and we said this heavyweight. We said, listen, the other fellow ain't going to be trying. You know what I mean? So like, you know, you got to fight. You got to fight and everything. Well, he's come out and these guys, they're both standing looking at each other. The crowd's booing, right? And now the guy who's taking the payday, not to win, he's like going to the fella, fucking hit me, please. We both know he's crooked. Fight, you know what I mean? And the guy said, and Ricky's on the mic outside the ring going, come on, fucking fight, let's get this going, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also we're staying there and I'm looking at him like he's going, just hit me, and like, and the guy's hitting him, mate, and he's pulling his shots like that. I'm cringing, I'm literally like that.
Oh.
So I'm going like, oh, fuck it. You know, we had some fun.
Yeah.
We did have some fun in them days.
So in the licensed boxing world, who do you think is the best presently?
Oh, Tyson Fury, isn't he?
Tyson Fury.
Yeah, he's head and shoulders, isn't he, at the moment, above everyone else. And if you're talking about boxing ability, you're talking about Canelo and
who would be his biggest challenge then?
At the moment.
Yeah.
Do you know, I've got a funny feeling, and I know it sounds funny, but I don't think he's if he has to fight Wilder,
Yeah.
I don't think that's as cut and dry as what people think it is.
Mm.
I know he done a good job on him last time.
Yeah.
And they're saying before he fights Anthony Joshua, he might have to fight him again. I think he does to Anthony Joshua all day long. You know, I know Anthony and I know him, and I've got no disrespect to Anthony, but I think Anthony Joshua's tailor-made for Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
But I've got a funny feeling that Wilder could be a banana skin at the third fight. And I know it sounds funny because Wilder's won 2 rounds in 2 fights. But and when you look, you think, well, what can he do? But I don't know. I just got a funny feeling in my head that that man punches. He's dangerous and he swings. And if Tyson goes in there with the attitude that I bashed him up twice before, it's just another bloody bash up job, and then I go and fight Anthony Joshua and get him for £100 million or for £200 million. Whether he takes that attitude, he shouldn't. You know what I mean? Wilder's still there. He's still dangerous. You know what I mean? And that's, but. He's he's an household name, isn't he? Tyson Fury at the moment. You know what I mean? He is. Everyone knows him. And good luck to him. He's related to Bartley Gorman.
So why should people go down below this video and click on the link to buy your book?
It's look, for anyone who wants to know about, there's some good stories in there. Some stuff in there like truths about, over the years, there's myths about Lenny was given moody gloves and stuff like that, and my dad give him these fantasy. The truth, there's truths in there about the gloves. There's my opinion on the 3 fights as to why Lenny won and as to why Roy won. I also I talk about all the old days, the golden era, as you might say, with the Clifffields and Johnny Wardle and why we don't call them the governor. And then after that, I talk about all the controversy between the governor title, the Norman Bucklands, the Decker Heggies, the Welsh Phil, Sven Hamer. and I mapped the fights out. You know, because people go, he was the governor, this one. Well, in the book, you can see on a time scale, this is where it went. He was the governor, then it went here, then it went here. He beat him, and he goes down. And then there's some other things we put in there about, some of the things that went on outside of the boxing to do with my lifestyle with Lenny. Me, Lenny, I was involved with him in a pub, the Governors, and we was in the number 4 limo, Ronnie Cray's thing, and we had the wake at Lenny's pub, or the pub we was running. Stories with Roy, and also Alex Steen, which Alex Steen come from Yorkshire, and he doesn't get the recognition what he deserves. You know, Alex was, he was different class, that man. He was, apart from my father, or maybe even with my father, he's the man I would strive to be like. The man, there was no pettiness with that man. There was no small talk. There was no. He was a man's man. He wasn't a criminal, but and in the book I really go into a relationship I had with Alex, and that man was something special. I mean, he really was something special, mate. I don't know.
Is there anything you'd like to say to the people watching this, just at the end of the interview here?
No, buy the book. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. You know, it's not like it's not like this. This is a story about unlicensed boxing. It's not like one of the guys who's won it. It's not a life story. There's no it's not talking about growing up as kids and stuff like that. This is about the boxing. It's about the boxing. It's about the fights. It's what happened behind the scenes, what we got up to. Some of the craziness with the old Bill trying to set us, put us down, stop the fights, and even Nazi boxing when we had 1,000 protesters outside of bloody Caesars, trying to stop the show because they reckon we was running money for the EDL, which was cobblers. It weren't. It was a misunderstanding. So there's a lot of stuff in the book which sets the record straight. If anyone's interested in the governor title, instead of looking at this group and that group and this group and that group, it's all in that book, and it isn't, and it's coming from the person who promoted the bloody fights. So I mean, I promoted the fights, along with a cut up with Ricky English and people, but I actually promoted the fights. So it's coming from what they say, the horse's mouth. What happened and how it happened, and who I believe, has the right to call himself the governor.
Some people watching this might want to follow you on social media or contact you. What's your preferred methods?
We got the Facebook
page?
group page.
What's it called?
Oh, I don't.
Sorry, we're going to put the link below this video.
It's called Unlicensed. I think it's called Unlicensed. Who's the governor?
Yeah. And if people want to contact you, what's your preferred through the Facebook page?
Yeah, they can. I think there's a link on it in there where they can put a message or something on there, can't they? So I mean, I'll get cut of people that run the things for me, but I always get the messages. You know what I mean? If I'm not on there myself, anyway.
Yeah. All right. So please let us know in the comments what you thought about this video today. Huge thank you to all the new subscribers. Subscription logos in the bottom right-hand corner. Huge thank you to people who donated so we can do podcasts in the studio with our cameraman and our sound engineer. And we're back up to doing 2 a week presently, so hope to keep that momentum going. And huge thank you to all the people who have gone down and clicked on our other playlists and links and all our other stuff, which are also in the description box below this video. All right, Joe, give us a hug, man. Cheers, that was brilliant. What a journey.
Yeah, you liked it?
Yeah, fantastic.
Thanks, yeah. Thanks, mate.